Well, good morning. It's not a good
Hey,
evening. It's a
hey.
good
Uh,
morning. It's the morning edition of Building Wealth and Health with Dr. Matt.
hey guys, hey everyone.
What's up?
Howdy, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. I'm still loud. There we go. My
Is it
ears are so sensitive.
so sensitive?
It's so sensitive. How are you this morning?
I am doing pretty good overall. Yeah,
Right on.
just
Right on.
getting the day going.
Cool.
Got some stuff happening. So yeah, glad we could do this early. Thanks for rescheduling.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, you got so we're doing this morning because Dr. Matt has a conflict this evening. Are you going out of town?
Yes,
Traveling.
I
Okay.
know. We'll see how that goes, huh?
Yay. Yay. All right.
Yeah, going to California. There's a conference that I'm going to, helping out Quicksilver and maybe learning a little bit on the way.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
yeah,
Going back to Cali.
so
Cali.
hopefully
Sweet.
it'll work all right. But yeah,
Sweet, sweet.
yeah,
Well, keep us updated on IG and let us
yeah,
know all the happenings that are going on.
will do.
Let's see. Before we get started, should we take a peek?
Yeah, let's do it. What's going on?
Ooh. What do we got here? I'm gonna put on my spectacles.
Had a big pop this morning right away, and then it's kind of settled down a little.
So this guy has my eyes now. Airbnb.
Oh yeah.
I am questioning the validity of the movement of this stock now too.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm. Especially with right here. So this is starting. These are the same kinds of telltale signs that I've been watching. And you see a big spike in volume here, and almost a fictitious hold, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
With all the buy orders that are coming in,
and it's just doing what it's doing. Crazy.
Man. Yeah, isn't that funny?
So much manipulation. It's just insane.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, look at here we are. So basically, it pushed just past high of yesterday, and then volume increases.
Yeah.
And we went from 166.55 to we're at 162.70. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So
yeah, I got a 170 call on Airbnb this week. So
could be.
I have questions about this one. Certainly this one. Mr. Yesla. This is doing about the same thing it does every morning.
Yeah.
At this point. Get a run up, bounce, and then this might be an earlier move on this one today. But you can see where it's past 50. We got another break.
Almost went to 49 this morning right away.
Yeah, 49.4 on this wick.
Yeah.
And obviously we've got plenty of activity in here at the moment. So what did Mr. Lerner just send me? I got long Marin. Oh wait, that's a different one. Free fall. Send me a picture of some guy falling out of a building. What is Marin doing right now? Let's see it real quick. Yep, same movement. So look at this. Looks so interesting. I've been watching this one because it had a big pop pre-market. I mean, I'm trying to find everything at this point. I mean, who knows?
Totally.
Who knows? Totally. Like this has become even bigger than I would ever imagine with these guys. It's pretty funny.
Well, when you have a business model based on pulling money, getting money lent to you to do shit.
You mean your business model is a Ponzi scheme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna pull money wherever you can, right?
Yeah.
So,
borrow from Peter to pay Paul, and then Paul finally gets sick of it and he wants to retire. Yeah. Liquidity is running short now. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now we're definitely getting those patterns of, higher lows, and there's shorter runs on the shorts if that makes sense. So we'll keep an eye on that as we progress here this morning. But yeah, this is funny. Whoops. I mean,
Yeah.
so I also want to see what TLT is. Yeah, 147. We had a little curl here. It's not a whole lot happening.
Mm-hmm.
And there's our doji at 147.63. Interesting. Keep an eye on that. Okay. VIX is popping again. So I'm going to have a little bit more of maybe it'll be a little more of a wacky Wednesday than anticipated. We'll see. I kind of figured it might be a little dull, but yeah, we'll see. There we are. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this morning we are going to talk about the 4 agreements. And I was just informed of this the other day by Dr. Matt. I have not read this yet. So Dr. Matt's going to take the lead, but I kind of skimmed over this last night. But I also was informed that there's now a 5th agreement, eh?
There is a 5th agreement. Yeah. And it's I think it's pretty relevant to what's going on right now. So,
okay.
I don't know. Well, I thought we could just kind of see as we riff a little bit here today, kind of how we want to do this. We could talk about them all today. Maybe we talk about some and we continue on with others later. I mean, I don't know. Is there, because that thing, is this set up to, I can share my screen or no?
Boy, you caught me on the fly here. I don't know. Let me see here.
No worries if not.
I can't hear you. What's up? Can I bike to school today? Can you bike to school today? I mean, we're not really set up for that right now. How about we figure out for tomorrow? All right. Okay. I got the boy getting ready for school. We have late start Wednesday today.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody starts an hour later, which can throw a wrench in all kinds of stuff. So let's see here.
Yeah, no worries
Add
if you
source. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't think so unless I actually added you in on this other side. But this is this platform's I'm still learning some of it, but I can do this for now. But or you can just tell me what you want to. I can pull stuff out while you're talking too. So just let me know what you want to do.
Well, I mean, I thought I'd kind of give like a bit of a kind of a background a little bit to the 4 agreements, because I think, we could definitely talk about them all, but I think just as a overall context of where it comes from a little bit is kind of interesting.
Okay.
And it comes from this sort of old wisdom that is the Toltec wisdom, Toltec.
Okay.
And it's basically a philosophy, kind of an old tradition. There's some people call it like the warrior's path to personal freedom, even though there's not really like a war out there. It's just sort of this like movement forward. It's like a Mexican, has like an origin kind of in the area around Mexico. It's kind of where it came from.
Okay.
And let's see, it's not like a religion or anything like that. They describe it kind of as a spiritual path. So there's a lot of similarities you'll find with a lot of other kind of spiritual paths, even some religious texts and things like that. But it's really not about a particular religion or even a particular spiritual like teacher, like one person kind of a thing, or one, belief system. There was it's been around. They estimate it's been around as like an oral tradition for like 10,000 years.
Okay.
So passed on from people, throughout the group. And one thing I really like about it is that it's not really a particular point of view, right? Like it's sort of it's just sort of a way of living and trying to bring peace internally to yourself. And when you bring peace to yourself internally, you're able to have more, peace, outside in the world around us, right? More peace in how we interact with people. And a lot of it has to do with the choices that we make, right? And whether if we can kind of create a really chaotic and fear driven and like victim type of way of living, or we can be much more grounded and connected and things like that. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's kind of where it comes from. So there's this sort of older, I mean, people really want to dive into it and look up more detail. There's a lot of stuff about the Toltec wisdom kind of tradition. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So
interesting.
And that's where Don Miguel Ruiz, the guy who wrote the Four Agreements, kind of that's where he's studied. And he's essentially kind of just distilled down, I think, a lot of the Toltec wisdom into these Four Agreements that allow for, a good way, or a way of living, and an effective way of living. And in his book, I mean, it's a super short book. I mean, it's tiny. So, you could read it in, a couple of hours probably.
I'm a slow reader.
Yeah. All right. So a couple of weeks for you.
Probably 2 or 3 weeks.
But yeah, it's not a big book and it's not complicated or anything like that. So, but yeah, so that's really where it came from. And I don't know, I read it probably, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago for the first, no, maybe not that long ago. I mean,
gotcha.
It's been around. What did they say? 97 is when it came out. And they've sold like 10 million copies of it or something like that. So it's, pretty big seller in the whole spiritual kind of self-help world.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned it yesterday, because after you or the day before, whenever it was, but after you mentioned it and I was kind of like perusing through, I mean, there were like, I was screwing around on IG for a little bit. And then I was, I was sitting on my YouTube channel, kind of just redoing a couple of things. And they like kept popping, like not popping up, but I was getting like information let to you. And it was weird. Like it's one of those things like you buy a new car and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere kind of thing. But it was just started, kind of formulating itself. Anyway.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just an interesting, I think it's got some stuff for people, whether or not they take all of it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have a good day, Sage.
Dr. Matt says, have a good day, bud.
He's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, gotta go to school.
Whatever.
Gotta go catch the bus.
But yeah, I mean, I think as we go, through life, I mean, I think it's helpful to find, I mean, I think people are looking for, structure around way to live. And I think a lot of people find that in a church, and that's just fine. I think a lot of people can find it in, different belief systems, and I've been through all of that myself personally. So, but I think I try to pull things from everywhere, right? Like what resonates at the moment. And there's moments where you'll feel like it's, oh, this is really important right now. And other times you don't even think about it. It's not even in your awareness.
Right.
And so like right now, like this was just in my awareness. This was something that I was just sort of thinking about. And it just has a lot to do with what's going on in the world, I think. And
no, I agree. Like I said, I was skimming it yesterday or in the evening, I was just kind of skimming through some stuff, and it was, I mean, these things resonate. It talked about timely. I mean, it's funny how things can like recirculate, things that like you read 15 years ago, like you can just like pull from that. All of a sudden it like clicks, like, wait, I remember whatever. I've had a lot of that happen to me in the last few months too, or it was just like, or I would go back and I'm like, I need to reread that actually. That fits right now. And I need to kind of like, we're negotiating some really choppy waters. And I mean, I'm trying to, like everybody, I'm sure, or most people at least, trying to keep my sanity and rationalize the day-to-day stuff. I mean, just even this morning and looking at the weather, and just the smoke here is just awful.
It's just
bad. Awful. And it's just like, it's wrecking me. I'm
feeling it. Like I usually don't, but it's been kind of hitting me the last couple of days.
I mean, I felt like this morning, it was like bad allergies. Like, am I getting a cold?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I mean, like yesterday I picked up Willow from soccer last night, and it was It was so bad. I mean, the coach even made it optional to come out and play because it was getting the pollution was so bad.
I mean, isn't that interesting? And like our mindset goes right away to like, oh God, I'm sick, blah. And it's like, wait, you're living in the world. You're a dynamic being in a world that's, well, literally on fire right now.
It's literally, literally it's burning. Yeah. But yeah, I was just like, I have like this allergy feeling, but I'm like, could it be more than that? And you know, this time of year, I don't usually have as much of an allergy issue.
Totally.
And I look outside, I'm like, well, I mean, there you go. That's it. I can't see the mountains.
I know from my condo when the sun goes, you know, it faces east, I can see that sunrise every morning, and it's just bright red for the first, like, you can stare right at the sun for the first like 20 minutes that it's up.
Yeah, it's
okay. There's some smoke out there.
It's a little smoky. Yeah. But I mean, these things definitely resonate with what, you know, wherever you're at mindset wise right now. I'm gonna go read this thing for sure. But
so the first one, you know, I don't think there's any particular order. I mean, they have them written as like agreement 1 and stuff like that. There's really no need for it, I don't think, to be a particular order, but you know, it's be impeccable with your word. And this kind of goes with the whole integrity conversation we had earlier, I think, because I think integrity and your word are kind of, they go together, right? Like if you're in integrity, you are doing what you said you would do.
Right.
You know, and so when, you know, that, I think it comes together really clearly, but I really like the word impeccable here. Which basically, I mean, it's interesting when he talks about it, he analyzes the word impeccable, and he talks about that in Latin, it comes from the combination of the Latin words peccatus and im, and that the peccatus in Latin, I guess, means sin. And so im is without, so it's without sin. And you know, in religion, we've got, you know, in Christianity, especially, you know, I think the word sin has gotten this really weird energy around it. So I don't really prefer that word, but really, I think what it means is sort of this idea that, well, if you really look at what the actual word of sin means, it means missing the mark. Like you know, taking you back to church days. Sorry, man.
Oh my God. Ooh,
but
option chain Houdini. Yes.
But you know, I think missing the mark is an interesting thing, right? And if you set up your responsibilities and your integrity and you miss that, right, then you've sinned. Like you're away from that mark. It's like you shooting an arrow towards a target, you know, is the example they always give. So, you know, if you're impeccable, you don't miss that, right? You're without it. You're dead on. You're like, this is what I mean. This is what I'm going to say. And that means you're taking responsibility for your actions and your word and your language, right? Like, because language creates. People forget that, you know, the stuff you say out loud and in your head has energy to it that's going to manifest itself in some way, not instantly necessarily, but I think there's this, you know, aspect of energy that's in our words. So if you're all over the place with your words and you're not impeccable with it and you're missing the mark, then I just feel like there's a lot of chaos around that and a lot of like uncertainty and weirdness.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that's really what, for me, like being impeccable with my word applies, is this like just clarity and distinctness that is just super helpful.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think a lot of this, you can not only interpret it, but you use it in a couple different ways, because it says, say only what you mean, speak with integrity, like you're talking about, stop your internal negative talk, I am stupid, so forth. So being impeccable with your word is not necessarily just, you know, reflecting that on other people, but it's to yourself, you know, be impeccable to yourself with your word.
Exactly. I think that's I'm so glad you said that. Yeah. I think that's even, obviously in the world around us, you know, hey, I'm going to meet you at 5 and I'm going to be there. Right. But, you know, like, what do you say of yourself? Like, what are you doing? Like, and that's what the going back to the talking about the Toltec wisdom, mean, it wasn't ever about anybody outside of you. It was about your own internal process, your own internal experience, and how you can, work inside that. So,
Right.
Yeah. I think it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It kind of hits you sometimes. You're like, ooh.
Oh yeah. It's self-reflection, and people hate that. I mean, I wouldn't say hate it, but a lot of people have a really hard time with that, or most people do, because you're calling yourself out, and that's the hardest person to call out. It's really easy to go point fingers at other people.
It's uncomfortable. Right? Yeah.
But yeah, when you dig into it and get real with yourself, I mean, I've been there plenty lately.
Sure.
And it's like, oof. Yeah. God.
That's not really working, is it? Yeah.
No. Ugh, it's getting ugly. Yeah.
But, it's not about beating yourself up or making yourself,
Right.
a horrible person about it. But it's like, again, it's like that responsibility of, all right, I have the responsibility of my own experience, and how do I want that experience to go?
Right.
And if it's not going that way, guess who the common denominator is?
Oh yeah. Every time. I mean, growing up, that's all I ever heard from my dad was,
really? Yeah.
Well, it's not about them. It's about you. And you think sometimes you're just like, no, this kid was just being a dick to me.
Yeah.
Why does that have to do with me?
Yeah.
And he's like, you as a kid, you can't understand that. As you get older, you realize it's the way that you take it and receive it from that person. Yeah. There's kids that are dicks to each other, right?
Totally.
They're mean. You have people are just in their own space. God knows what's going on in their own head, but they're just acting that way for their own reason. But the way that you interpret it and manage that interaction is a reflection of you.
Exactly.
If it's bothering you to the point where you start feeling bad about yourself, or you get really upset about it, or you dwell on it. Now you can have an instant reaction, which is like, whoa, or like, oh, that was mean, or whatever it is. But do you dwell on it? Do you drag that out for the day? Does that ruin the rest of your day? I talk to my kids about that too. And it's the same thing. Like, now that I understand what that means.
Yeah. It's not easy, for sure.
It's not. And you can take that and say, brush it off. Something's going on with that person, or you can really start, deteriorating throughout the day, whatever. And it beats you up. Yeah. That's about you. And that's where I realized my dad was, when he was saying that, like, that doesn't make any sense. I did nothing. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough one, for sure. I mean, I think, and so much of that stuff, I think we've talked about this before too. It's like, it's not even noise that's like right, or it's like an experience that we're kind of creating in our own world that's not even really real. Like, it's not even really happening a lot of times. I mean, there might have been an impetus, like something that started it, like some kid being a dick to you. But after that, like, it's all in your own head, and all the different things that you start creating around it, and what it means, and what it means, right? Like, there's a meaning we give to this stuff.
Yep.
There's an interesting kind of thing to play around with sometimes, is when you kind of get stuck in that. It's like, there's something that happened, and then there's a meaning that you gave to it, right? Like, and what happened is very objective and very black and white. Like, it's like, that kid said these words to me, and it's just like, that's just like cut and dry, right? And then after that, it's like, what did that mean to you? How did that play out afterwards?
Right.
And that's complicated, because that brings in all kinds of stuff from past stuff, and I mean, all these different things, right? So it's, this is all just sort of, I think, in the conversation to,
don't go, buddy. Don't go.
Don't go. Stay with us. Hang out with us.
You're all good, Coop. Go do your thing. Yeah, it's dude, I told you not to play Tesla this week. Actually, I didn't. I talked myself out of it. See, here we go. How are you interpreting this? Come on. It's a reflection on you.
That's
you gotta dig deep. Why did you play Tesla?
It's Tesla's fault.
It's Tesla's fault. Yeah. It's Tesla's fault. What is happening with Tesla?
Speaking of Tesla.
See, look what you did, man. You got this on. Oh no, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Coop, you know what's about to happen here. You're good. You're good.
Well, I think it's actually relevant, though. I'm glad this kind of popped up like this, right? Because you look at these institutions, you look at these systems that we have set up right now, and they're not at all impeccable with their word.
Mm-hmm.
Then not at all. It's complete.
Not at this point. The entire. I mean, you can almost relay that to the entire market at this point. It's my fault.
Exactly.
I didn't take the gain. I got greedy. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But don't internally negative talk yourself. Don't do that.
Yeah.
We make mistakes, and that's okay. Move on. I don't think you made a mistake. I mean, what is it? It's a short week. That's what concerns me. But we're gonna have a bounce here. I just don't know where your calls are at. So good luck.
Good luck.
I have not made that play this week, but that's the same thing. I told myself, like, say only what you mean. I told myself I'm not going to play Tesla this week.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to be impeccable with my word, and I said, and I didn't do it. Now it's only Wednesday morning, but I have to stay on that. I have to stay on that. Yes, it always bounces, but at what level? I mean, there's the option game right there.
Exactly.
And the integrity we don't have as much control over, since I've discovered what's really happening with Tesla too, is the guys behind this, you know, these larger moves are not integral. They're not integral people.
No, it's not. And it's frustrating, I think, to observe it. Right. And it's easy to get spun into this last week around in medicine has just been a shit show of lack of integrity and complete lying. I mean, all this smear campaign about, ivermectin that Joe Rogan was talking about.
Did you watch that clip on the podcast where he was back on his first? Not yet.
I mean, is that the one where he's talking to Segura?
Yeah. And he's basically I think I'm going to sue CNN.
I mean, it's
that talk about not being impeccable with any one word that comes out of your damn mouth.
It's complete lies. Yeah. Complete lies. And for those of you watching may not know, but I mean, like, the amount of prescriptions written for humans for ivermectin in the last year, or not the last year, let's say go back before all this nonsense was happening. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was in the hundreds of thousands,
decades
of prescriptions. And then you can go back 30 years, 40 years as a medication. And it's on the World Health Organization's essential medication list.
Bro, it's on the list at Good Sam. Right down the road from me.
Dude, it's everywhere.
It's I've known about it for quite a while. I just didn't know all the things that it did. And that's why I started asking the docs that I know.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh, we have all kinds of reasons we use this.
Totally. And the nonsense of using it off label is another thing, because docs do that all the time.
We talked about what's not approved by the FDA. Well, hold on a second. So are 2 of the 3 vaccines. So shut your mouth. And until a month ago, all 3 of them were not approved by the FDA. They're EUA protocol.
Right. So you start to see
my wife
this.
said the same thing. It's if we only went off the FDA approved list and didn't go off label, we wouldn't be using anything. Except Bondo.
Yeah. Right. Well, you know what? It's funny. Here's a funny one around off-label. You know what Viagra is used for off-label, or Cialis?
Oh, I feel like someone's told me that. Maybe it was you.
It's used a lot in the bodybuilding world, the workout world.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Because it increases, changes circulation patterns and allows for more hypertrophy of muscles.
Right. Yeah. Think about that. I mean, that's exactly why it's used.
It's used all the time outside off label. There's nice, I guess, benefit some guys get off of it, and probably, but they're not necessarily using it for intended purposes. And look, I'm not even an expert, obviously, in pharmaceuticals, because I don't really use them. But neuromeds, psych meds. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
it's insane. I mean,
that whole world there's nothing but off label.
And I think a lot of that stuff, we can dive into the pharmaceuticals just in, I see the corruption just in the whole pharmaceutical industry itself, not that their meds aren't helpful in certain cases, but just you start to anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But
Oh yeah.
I think that's why I got kind of up in, this was up for me a little bit, just watching this sort of nonsense go on and just watching how it got spun and how it's just not true. Like it's just, it's built on lies. It's built on, it can't stand, it just can't stand.
It's wiggling free. I mean, you're starting to see, like, and Rogan did say on his podcast, he's like, the worst case scenario for these quacks happened because I literally I barely got sick. People were, he's like, we have, when you get this famous, you have a lot of haters along with the fans, and people are wishing the worst of me and hope you get really sick and get in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. But it was more than that, because it was more of like, we need him. It needs to backfire on Joe because of what he's been talking about for the last 20 months, right? It needs to backfire for Joe, and it didn't. And everything that he talked about from day one is what he went and did. He was impeccable with his word, and he stayed the course. And there's all kinds of treatments. I know personally people that have gone down with, COVID and then used monoclonal antibodies as the treatment,
right?
And within 24 hours, if they get on it, has anyone ever heard of Tamiflu? Like, why are we not even talking about coming? It just, I mean, I could go on for hours about it, but the thing that you're right is that, the first agreement is getting flushed down the toilet in this world right now with most of these groups, and it's just sickening to watch. What's more sickening is that people follow along with them. Well, I think don't even open their eyes. Open your eyes.
And I think that's what's so important about, really, when we look at the Toltec philosophy around it all, is that you can't expect the systems to do this. This is an internal process. This is about you, and it's you. The reason I bring it up, though, in that kind of systemic context, is you can see why it can't stand, like why it doesn't work.
Right.
And same in the stock market, right? These hedgies doing all this, shenanigans with the shorting. I mean, it just can't. It's not a long term. It won't work, and it's gonna fall apart, and it's unfortunate. It's just how it's gonna affect people in certain ways, and it's unfortunate that people are in that space. That they feel like they're justified to do that stuff, but you know what? That's their experience, and I can't control that. Like I have zero control over what some billionaire hedge fund manager who wants to make another $1 billion for whatever reason off the backs of, I have no control over that, but I'm sad about it. I think it's an awful way to live your life, but do it.
do what you're going to do. Just be glad you're not that person. Right.
And
I'm glad I'm not that person.
Yeah. And you can only control, you can only experience your experience and have a say about that. So,
right. And I'm for profit. Listen, I'm for people making as much money as they want to. If you want to make a ton of money, totally. I wish you all the best and go for it. Just don't do it at the expense of everyone else who should be riding that train if they're on board with that. And listen, that's exactly what I'm taking advantage of.
I know, right?
This is going to blow up in their face.
Well, that's kind of the funny thing, isn't it?
That's cool. It's almost ironic to think about it that way. Where it's like, these guys are doing this, and in some ways they are going to help people kind of benefit from this. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting dynamic, but that's kind of the circle of energy that we talk about all the time. Is at some point that's going to boomerang back, and if you're on the end of, especially with these agreements, if you're on the end of staying kind of true to that part of your life, then patience is a virtue. We always talk about that too, but that's going to turn around and come. If you're part of that process, it will come back and hand you something, right? I mean, that's how I have to get through all this nonsense. And I've always tried to like reconcile with myself, is it'll come back if you stay with it and you're true to that stuff.
Exactly. I think I've just been really encouraged, I think, because it's easy to get discouraged, but I've just been really encouraged about being able to see, like I've been watching some of the different YouTube videos of the different people from Reddit doing all the analysis of the short squeeze and stuff. And, some of it's just stupid kids doing stuff, and some of it's really interesting and really good stuff. And so I've been really just present to like how cool it is that we're at a time where these people can actually do this work and find this stuff out and share it in a way that they've never been able to share it before. And how there is this sort of idea around, we're all in this, we're going to help each other out, or we're, kind of a thing. And I kind of see it in the pharmaceutical, or we're seeing it with this whole pandemic and the healthcare. It's like I texted you last night, this like veil's like falling down. Like you're starting to be able to see behind this curtain that we've never been able to see before. And I think it's really amazing. And what a time to be alive to be a part of it. But
I agree.
It's very loud and angry right now.
It's loud and angry. And yes, in some ways it's hard to take.
It is.
And you have to be careful you don't get sucked in for too long. 'Cause it's like your hearing, your psychological hearing can start to get ruptured, and you got to get away from this. Too loud for too long. It's like being in a concert for 3 hours. Your ears are going to start ringing if you don't like plug them up or get out and, take a break or go grab a beer at the truck or whatever it is.
Right. That's a good analogy. Yeah.
You're going to have, your ears are going to ring for the rest of the day. And that's where I've tried to like, okay, it's okay to be involved and educate myself and be aware of what's happening. And yes, there is something happening here that's may never be seen again, just with everything that's kind of like mushed together.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like we talk about, we're going to pull away and separate ourselves from a lot of the noise and just kind of be involved in one piece of it for a few days. 'Cause it's important to do that. Yeah. Otherwise you start breaking down and, you can't get into these agreements. You'll start like questioning anything.
Totally. Well, at the end of the day, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So you have to like, whatever all those analogies are, metaphors, they work, but it's quite a time. And
it is quite a time for sure.
And I think we're going to come out of it. Like I'm optimistic. Some days I'm not so much, but I am optimistic, and it's just, maybe the world's burned down at some point, and then we come out of it. But
sometimes forests have to do that in order to regrow.
What happens.
Right? That's just what happens. The soil has to get rejuvenated, and that's unfortunate. I mean, I'm talking about smoke right now, and that's exactly what's happening. Everything's just burning. Yeah, it's just gonna burn. I mean, you're right. The veil at some point does get lifted. It blows away. I think for myself, seeing someone like Rogan, who has 40 million subscribers on Spotify, all the platforms, right? He is a big name, and to have, the whole situation with him happen,
pretty remarkable, huh?
What are you gonna censor Rogan?
Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
Because here's the problem. If you do that, then everyone goes, whoa, if they're shutting this dude down, then there's a problem. And I see the game now. Like you're going to open the door completely, and like the curtain gets pulled all the way back and everyone looks. Some people may still say, oh, I don't see anything. And most people are going to be like, what? That's who's running this whole thing? It's that was like he said, that's the worst thing could happen is I got sick.
Yeah.
And then the whole process afterwards, it's like, see, this is medicine, guys.
Yeah.
This is science, and this is medicine, and this is this is what we should be talking about with people. Yes, we have a virus that's run rampant, and we're not only exposing, like, because Joe talks about why he thinks he got COVID, and he's like, I mean, he's actually as much as he actually probably does drink, does drugs, smokes cigars, the way he eats, the way he exercises, the way he's always lived most of his life, he's a pretty healthy guy overall. Yeah. And I think the problem is what you see on his podcasts and just in life is he doesn't depict himself always that way. But if people pay attention to what Joe actually does and has done his whole career, he's a pretty healthy guy.
Yeah.
And he talked about going out, and he had like 3 shows and 3 nights in Florida, and he loves playing pool. They went out and drank way too much, was out until like 3 a.m, passed out in the hotel, got up early, a few hours of sleep, woke up. He's like, clearly I was hungover.
Yeah.
But I could tell as I progressed through the day, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is more than a hangover. Something's going on here. He's like, I weakened my system.
Yeah.
I broke myself down and exposed myself to
Yep.
like, oh, my body's not, I'm dealing with all the stuff you've put in here. I
Mhm.
only have so much I can give you.
Right.
Sorry, buddy. Can't deal with this right now. There it goes.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, yeah, if I would have been a good boy and gone to bed at 10 and didn't go out with everybody else and got a good night of sleep, I probably would have been I got exposed to it, but I probably been fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the situation with most of the world, but especially in this country, is people aren't equipped to deal with most
they're
things.
not at all
Period.
equipped. They're not
So
at
we
all.
have to have technology come in. We have to have vaccines come in because otherwise, yeah, there's some people, for lack of a better word, drop dead in the street.
Yeah, potentially, for sure.
It's not a good thing. And yes, we have a lot of amazing technology and medicine out there that is going to sugarcoat issues, and it works. It works. Don't tell me Goro. They're not in Goro. Stand by. Oh, talk to me once over 250. I don't know what happened, to be honest with you. I don't know what happened. There was something weird that happened with Goro too, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe why would they be involved in Goro at this point? I don't know. We'll see. It did pop.
Those guys, who knows?
Yeah. But yeah, technology in medicine has saved a lot of people that, graphically enough may have otherwise not been here.
Maybe. Who knows?
And the whole theory behind, a lot of people died from COVID supposedly, based on numbers that were being projected. And what would have happened to those people if we didn't have a pandemic? I don't know, dude. Yeah, just buy the shares, bro. It's under $2. Cheap ass.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think we
I don't know.
We live
no one knows.
Well, we live in this really binary aspect of things, right? It's like this way or that way, and the way the world works is never binary. It's always like it's like it's like both, right? It's like okay, this and this. Can we have space in our experience and our to understand the and
yeah,
we don't, a lot of times, I mean, I've at this point treated probably a dozen people for COVID without all that technology, and
right,
they get through it, and
what would have happened in your opinion if we didn't have a political game and a financial game that was being played since day one with this thing? Because I mean, I'm sorry, if you haven't read The Shock Doctrine, I've spoken about it a million times. Dr. Magforce has read it. Go read it. It's disaster capitalism being infiltrated into this country. It's Chicago School of Economics. It's whether or not this was actually put out there on purpose or not, we'll probably never know. But the fact of the matter is they took advantage of a situation, and it was an easy one to take advantage of. So what would have happened if that wasn't implemented?
Yeah.
And people like you were allowed to do all the different treatments that they already knew how to do with all kinds. I mean, infectious disease doctors,
I know,
play this game every day with all kinds of shit you never hear of.
Yeah.
And now they're being told you can't use any of the stuff that works. And I know you're the expert and I'm not, but sorry, you don't get to, or we're going to take your shit away.
Right.
I mean, I can tell you the numbers would probably be cut in half.
Oh yeah. No, I think probably what would have happened would have been like the last SARS outbreak
H1N1
that happened, where there would have been a spike of people that got really sick and died, and then but people wouldn't have known about it. Maybe if your family member got, you would know about it, and then after that, probably would have moved on, and it would have been out of people's awareness.
Yeah,
and it would have just been another, that's another thing we have to deal with. I mean, we still have to deal with H1N1. We have to deal with other things.
They don't go away. They don't go away.
And
so people don't understand that when it's like, well, I don't understand how someone that's fully vaccinated got COVID. Then you don't understand what a vaccine does.
Mm-hmm.
That's
especially this type of vaccine.
Especially this type of vaccine. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you think about Coop? Because he says he's been, she got it. So she did test positive on the other one. All right. Well, that answers that question. Yeah. And he was shall we say, up in her grill the entire time.
Totally.
And
I mean, this is the question of all viruses and what they are and what they do and how they infect people and what their role is. And, Dr. Zach Bush, he's an interesting guy. You should check him out. He's an MD. He was involved in chemotherapy development for a long time and then got involved in hospice care. So he's a really interesting kind of journey of medicine and, dealing with people at end of life and things like that. But anyway, he talks about viruses as part of this could actually be a whole other topic that we do. But viruses is kind of the foundation of life on the planet, like literally the foundation of everything. Right. And how the genetic material from viruses gets incorporated into life, and
that's the job of a virus, is to pass that material along.
And we see that with the research on this has actually a lot to do with bacteria, and they can watch bacteria become quote unquote infected with a virus, and then their genetics of a bacteria change. They're called bacteriophages. They're viruses that infect bacteria.
That is wild to think about.
Yeah. Well, it's just a genetic. You remember, a virus is not alive.
It's transmitting information.
It's a protein. It's a protein shell with genetic information in it. And so, when people get sick and we call it getting the virus, the question is, I think it's valid to be like, well, was it already there? Why does someone get symptoms? What's happening when people get symptoms of this? Is it this thing's trying to attack you and destroy you? Or is it, I don't have the answer. I'm just,
right. Is it creating pathogenic motion to do something, to go somewhere else? Like, all right, we've incorporated that genetic information here, but I got to get out.
Yeah. Exactly. On. And there are people that actually think it's sort of like an upgrade, if you will, to the system. Like your life exists because of these kind of viral upgrades that people get. And we kind of understand that with the computer idea, right? It's like, oh, it's operating system 2.0 or operating, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't claim to be an expert at any of that stuff. I just think it's interesting to think about. And especially when we have people like Coop here that, has been exposed to COVID multiple times with different people who have been sick, and you've never experienced symptoms. Now, does that mean you quote unquote don't have COVID?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Coop, have you ever been tested for antibodies? I'm kind of curious, because that would be something. Because I should have done that. I've been exposed multiple times. And I probably should have done that.
Yeah.
It's too late for me now, but
yeah. Amor fate.
I would have been curious. Amor fate.
But yeah, I mean, these are just really interesting questions, and especially when we talk about the role of these sort of viruses, and then, like you said, like what would have happened if we didn't have this political juggernaut get into this narrative? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think we would have just had another virus. People would have been sick, and some would have died, and just like every year, and maybe it would have been higher than normal, and then it would have come down. And I mean, I think we have this sort of historical trauma of thinking of things like the plague or the Black Death or even the flu of 1918, and we kind of lay that over this and think, oh, that's going to be what's going to happen.
Or even what was it, 76 with the Spanish flu? What was that whole regime? What flu was that?
1976. That was the bird. That was that a bird flu or a swine flu? I can't remember.
One of the
swine. I think it was a swine flu.
You're right. I think it was swine flu. Yeah.
Well, that's a good example too. I mean, that came and went. Nobody talks about that anymore. But
it was certainly a very similar kind of.
And this
marketing.
Isn't to say, they tried. They tried. And this isn't to say that people aren't going to get sick and have problems,
right?
Or that it's not real.
Happened. No, of course
but
it's real. I mean,
just to say, hey, we've been on the planet a hell of a long time, and I don't think these things are as clear as we want to as the media is portraying it, you know. And
well, and that's the thing, is the people talking about it are not the experts. I mean, and the experts they bring on are being paid to talk about it. I mean, clearly, and it's unfortunate. Like I was saying before, unfortunately, there's always an agenda somewhere here, and that's what a lot of people don't understand is no, there's always an agenda. There's a push behind it, and it's not me being tinfoil or being conspiracy theory. It's just how the world works, how money is made. It's just everyone has one. Everyone's got an angle. That's just what it is. And you have to understand it's not what you're being told is not the full truth. And even if they're not intentionally trying to lie, they're only giving you information they want you to hear, or they may know, and that's it.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think about that a lot. Like, what would things be like if we, it has to do, I feel like it has to do a lot with the energy we put behind stuff too, right? Like suddenly we create this like energetic, and it really makes it more real. Like, I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying it's like, it makes it more, we create it more. We create a bigger monster around it in a way, just from the and we have a whole collective world doing that. So
yeah, there's a lot to all of this right now. And I can't emphasize enough encouraging more people go out and take the opportunity. I still know people that haven't gone back to work. I mean, it's crazy to think about that. Or they have the opportunity, like I call it, to have more time during the day because they're not driving to and from work. They're not working from home full time, you know, because their job allows them to do that. And so just using that time you would be spending in the vehicle, whether it's on the bus, on the car, whatever it was, how you got to work, and educating yourself on something completely outside of your job or your career, right?
Right.
Get information on especially the timely topics right now, and educate yourself and become more knowledgeable in something else that can help you not only, you know, build some more wealth and especially with your health right now. Like, what are all the things I can be doing? There's plenty of information out there.
Totally. Yeah. That's actually a good, we do another topic about.
Well, I mean, I think the 4 agreements, we'll definitely have to just keep going through this because it ties into so many different things.
Yeah.
And you know, we covered 1. I think we'll just kind of keep hitting them as we go.
Keep hitting them. Yeah. Sounds good. I mean, it all kind of, like you said, circles back in different topics. So yeah.
Aquila Resources. I've heard of that. This is, you know, just off topic real quick. I mean, we do like to talk about the market, but they've been talking about getting more U.S. exposure for a while. So Goro is a company that's been around, oh my God, a long time. They've been around a long time, but they changed their name. But I've been involved in them for 15 plus years on different levels as far as investing. And most of their drilling for metals has been in different areas of Mexico.
Oh, I remember you were involved in this a long time ago.
Yeah. And we definitely bought in before they went public. Then they split us. Then they went public on the OTC, and they finally hit NASDAQ. I mean, and then for various odd reasons, at one point their stock was almost $40 a share. They've also, instead of offering up some of their dividends recently, have given us free shares of other companies that deal in metals, especially gold.
Interesting.
But most of their drilling happens through Mexico, and that's kind of where they've been kind of located most of the time. They are based in Colorado. But this Aquila Resources is interesting because I've been hearing about this for a while. So they're buying a company, right? And they're on the OTC. Yep. Well, something to watch for everybody that's viewing or picks this up on the recap. Something to watch for sure. We'll keep an eye on that one. Time will tell on that for sure. So Goro, Gold Resource Corporation, you can go take a peek at them. They're at the moment, I think they're trading. Yeah, they're trading at 179. They're right here. So anyway, yeah. I think we'll just touch base on the next agreement.
Yeah.
Next time we jump on here, because there's plenty of things we can tie in with this. I think it'd be a good one. We can consecutively move through this and I think it'd be really good to definitely get everybody exposed to this. And if you want to, in the meantime, here's your homework.
Yeah,
pick
up the book, read it.
It's on Audible. It's on Amazon. It's everywhere. You can find it.
And if you're not Shane, you can probably read it in an afternoon.
Yeah, you could probably pick it up and get done with it in an afternoon, evening. My wife could probably read it in about an hour and have it all
memorized.
Memorized, and maybe she could just recite it back to me, and then I'll read it.
Then you're good. Just like an audiobook.
Just like an audiobook. So better looking. That's good. Cool, man. Well, I'm glad we got to do this morning.
Yeah. Me too.
I wish you safe travels.
Thank you.
Have fun on your airport and on the airplane. Enjoy Cali. Definitely. Coop's got a question. Hit us. Tesla coiling. All right. Ask your question. I'll look at Tesla. That's for Dr. Matt. Do you see that one?
Yeah. No, not necessarily. I mean, that's a complicated, I don't know if I could answer that without knowing a lot more about what's going on for you, but probably no, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I think,
Coop, if you want.
Yeah. Autoimmune issues, if that's what's going on. I mean, that can be pretty complicated, and steroids will probably slow the hair loss down, but, yeah.
You losing your hair, bruh?
But that's the, there's something underneath that. And if, from a naturopathic standpoint, we're trying to deal with what's causing all of this to happen from just a broad picture in autoimmunity. And I don't know more to tell you about, that. There's a lot to look at with that. But
yeah, actually, just the very little I know about that is I had a friend years ago, and this was when he was in his early 20s, right out of college. Actually, he was working for me at the time. And he started experiencing some really random hair loss kind of on the back of his head, and it's like patchy spots. And they couldn't figure out for a while what was going on. They were doing steroid injections at those spots. It did grow back fairly quickly. And then he was fine, but then it would recur again. And they were trying to figure out, is it stress related? Is it eventually, I don't know what ended up happening with him. I don't remember what kind of treatments, if any, but it stopped. He still thinks it was just stress related based on the things that were happening in his life at that point. But again, a young dude. I mean, my hair didn't start thinning until, I was much older. So
yeah,
you're good, dude. I mean, if it's coming back, then there's something else going on, but, I don't know.
Yeah. It's, I mean, steroids always just, from a broad context, they just stop the inflammatory response, and the inflammatory response is always triggered by something. So if you take steroids, it'll definitely relieve symptoms. It'll definitely slow processes down, but it,
so you think,
but it doesn't ever really get down to why that inflammatory process is happening, which is why in autoimmune type cases, it's more involved. But yeah, and stress does, there definitely falls out with stress, and that's a totally different than, the normal male pattern and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, that's not male pattern baldness and patchy spot on top of my head. It's on top. Interesting. Usually it's on the sides from what I heard, but I mean, it can happen anywhere, obviously. Bigger question is, are you growing hair on your butt? Because
that's
the steroids you're using for that.
Exactly.
We all think we're not very stressed, and I know Coop's an easygoing, laid back dude, and he's Mr. Amor Fati for sure. But we all got it, and we all have to deal with it, and our body deals with it in different ways. It's just a matter. We're all going to have it. It's just a matter of how you use it. I got lupus, but well,
yeah,
I don't know, man. It could be a million things, but hit up Dr. Matt if you're still questioning what's going on, if it's not working.
Connect you to somebody locally, probably be good.
Yeah,
potentially.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, dude, just deep breaths. I don't know.
It helps. Yeah.
Just revel in the fact that it's not male pattern baldness, and you probably you're not losing your hair. That part if it's growing back, that's good. I wish mine would grow back like fully, but you know, amor fati.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, right on, man. Yeah, like I was saying, have a safe trip.
Thanks.
Enjoy
Yeah.
Cali. Keep
Yeah.
us posted on what's going on.
We'll do. Yeah,
if
we'll
you have-
catch up when I
Yeah.
get back, and
Yeah, keep rolling. Go read the 4 agreements.
yeah,
I'm going to do the same thing. I'll have it read by the time you get back. How about that?
love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I know I might need to reread it again too, different pieces of it.
Yeah.
So
Never hurts to reread stuff for sure.
nope. All righty. Well,
Right
thanks,
on,
man.
All right, guys. Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
If you're watching live, appreciate you. If you're watching on the recap, don't forget to hit that like button. Hair plugs, bro. I'm good. If this is the worst thing health-wise that happens to me, then I'm not. There's no complaints here. I just shaved my head. It's fine.
It's going to be totally smooth-headed in a little bit here.
We'll see. Here's the only interesting thing is once it started going, it got to a point and then stopped.
Oh yeah.
Which is odd. I guess. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'm still a younger guy, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's not. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm not stressing too much about that. Do what I can, but otherwise, oh well. All right. Well, we will be back in 2 weeks for the live stream. We're going to go in depth more on the 4 agreements. Go read it if you haven't. If you're watching on the recap again, hit the like button if you like it. Subscribe if you're new. Go follow Dr. Matt. Go follow me. We're both on IG. drmattready.com if you've got questions on that end. If you've got questions otherwise, drop them in the comments below, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Dr. Matt.
Yep. Thanks, sir. Have a nice day.
Yep. AMC to the moon, and
let's do it.
we'll talk soon, buddy.
All right, man. See you guys. Thanks.
Later.